This is a special meeting. It's a tribute meeting to a long-standing member that it's the first of its kind as far as I know, so it's a wonderful day in many regards. This club has been in existence since 1932, and we currently have 162 members, active members in the club. Our honoree here has been in the club 54 years, 1969. And there's only one other active member in the room that's been here longer, and that's Nick Ungard in 1965. He's been here 58 years. We meet every Monday from Labor Day to Memorial Day, minus the Christmas holidays. And we have 3 night meetings a year where we have special guests come in. And the last one is our awards night, which gives awards to local athletes and one athlete out of the area, and that has been ongoing since 1954. All right, one last thing from my end. I want to do a shout out. Dwight Wallace is here. Dwight spoke to us just 4 weeks ago. He's a friend of the club, and we're glad to have him in attendance today. I am now going to get out of your all way, and we can get this party started.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Allen, former news anchor here in town and the president-elect of the Dayton Aganis Club, and I'm happy to be with you today for this very special event. My fellow Aganians, and of course that includes, as you just heard, today's honoree, who's been a member of our club since 1969. His many family and friends joining us today. We're so glad you're here. I know it's a special day for all of you. And our many other special guests, lots of luminaries joining us today. It is my pleasure and honor to welcome you to this very special Dayton Aganis Club tribute to the one and only Bill Gunlock. I think we all know Bill, the football player, the coach, the company founder, the generous philanthropist. But just to very briefly set the scene here, you're going to be hearing a lot more about this over the course of the next hour or so. Bill Gunlock, on his own from the age of 12, milked cows, 5 cows, every morning before school, which I think explains that handshake, if you have ever shaken hands with Bill. Never saw a football game until he was a freshman in high school. I find some of this amazing. 3-year letter winner at Miami, where he defeated my alma mater, Arizona State, in the 1950 Salad Bowl. I guess he was the fork and we were the croutons. You know the rest, I think. Played at Army, coached at Heidelberg, Bowling Green, West Point, Ohio State, where the Buckeyes, of course, won the national championship in 1961. We'll hear more about that shortly. But the names in this man's bio: Woody, Bo, Red Blake. Ladies and gentlemen, we're in the presence today of a true legend and a one-man walking football Hall of Fame. We have several people joining us today who have traveled with Bill on various parts of his journey, and it is time to hear from them, and this is going to be great. Please welcome first a man who's had a front row seat to Bill's amazing life and career. His son, please welcome Tom Gunlock.
Thank you. What a life our dad has led. He was born to Roy and Ethel Gunlock on September 20th, 1928. I'm unsure what God was thinking about that day, but when he made Dad, he must have been on some kind of illegal substance. He never did it again. Dad is one of a kind, thank God. Not sure the world could handle more than one Bill. Dad was born in Chillicothe, Ohio. He was the 3rd child born of 4 boys. When he was 11, he was asked by his folks to move out of the house and move in with a widowed lady to help her with her farm. Before going to school each day, he was expected to take care of the animals and complete other farm chores. The pay was 3 meals a day and the satisfaction of helping a woman who had lost her husband. He did this also as a way to help his immediate family, as resources were quite scarce and there were too many mouths to feed back home. He was allowed to move back home with the rest of the family when he entered his freshman year of high school. Although he had never played before, he decided to try out for the high school football team. That decision opened future doors for him with a football scholarship to Miami University in Oxford, Ohio, and additionally changed the landscape for his family's future. Bill made the Ohio All-Star team his senior year in high school. It was at that point in time that he met Bo Schembechler. Dad played for the South team and Bo played for the North team. The two ended up as roommates, and you will see later on remained friends for life. Sid Gilman recruited both Bo Schembechler and Dad to play at Miami. Dad later played for legendary coach Woody Hayes. During the 1950 season, the team was invited to play at the Salad Bowl in Phoenix, Arizona. Miami beat Arizona State, and that victory propelled Woody Hayes forward to be named the head football coach at The Ohio State University. Bill and Dorothy Malone were married on February 2nd, 1951, in the middle of a snowstorm in Chillicothe, Ohio. After graduating from Miami in the spring of 1951, he spent the next 2 years in the U.S. Army. He was stationed at Brooke Army Medical Center in Sam Houston, Texas. Many military bases had their own football team. Dad happily accepted an invitation to play. He vividly remembers that during each game, the commander of the base always gave this statement: "Play well, fellows, you can stay here. Play poorly and you get to go to Korea." After his discharge from the Army, Dad went to work at Heidelberg College in Tiffin, Ohio as assistant football coach, head baseball coach, and assistant dean of students. The head coach at the time was Paul Horniman, a future college football Hall of Fame coach. I was born in 1953 and Randy was born 17 months later in 1955. Shortly thereafter, we moved to Bowling Green, Ohio, where Dad had taken a position as assistant football coach at Bowling Green State University under legendary coach Dwight Perry, another college football Hall of Fame member. Bo Schembechler was also a member of that staff. Son Roger was born in 1958 in Bowling Green. That made 3 of us. We then moved to West Point, New York, where Dad had taken an assistant football coaching position with the Army Knights under College Hall of Fame coach Colonel Red Blake. During the 1958 season, running back Pete Dawkins was the Heisman Trophy winner, and the Lonesome Men was born. Bob Novogratz was named Nation's Outstanding Lineman by winning the Knute Rockne Award and is also a member of the Football Hall of Fame. The team finished 3rd in the country. Son Bo was born in 1960, so that made 4 of us in 6 years. In 1961, College Football Hall of Fame coach Woody Hayes came calling. He asked Dad if he would be interested in coming to Ohio State as Woody's first defensive coordinator. My dad declined. When asked why, Dad said he had heard Woody was a son of a bitch to work for. Woody insisted he should at least come to visit. Long story short, our next move was to Columbus, Ohio. In 1961, Ohio State won the Big Ten, beating Michigan 50-20 and declared national champions. Bo Schembechler was also on the staff at Ohio State. As part of the deal Woody had made with Dad, if OSU won the Big Ten championship and went to the Rose Bowl, Woody would make sure Dad's entire family was invited to attend. As luck would have it, the OSU faculty voted to preclude the team from accepting the extended invitation, as football players would supposedly miss too much class time. Imagine if that would happen today. I don't know if you noticed, but all 4 head coaches he was assistant for were elected to the College Football Hall of Fame. In 1963, Dad decided to leave coaching and go into work for Kohler Trumbull Company, a mass appraisal firm located in Dayton, Ohio. In order for him to learn the business, we started moving yearly. First, we moved to the Toledo area in Waterville, then to Peoria, Illinois. We moved to Lima, Ohio, and finally to Dayton in 1968. By 1972, Dad had been named president of Kohler Trumbull Company. In 1974, the company was sold to American Appraisal located in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. As often happens, Dad was fired as president, told he could stay on, but in a reduced capacity. So with 4 kids and recently divorced, he quit his job and started his own appraisal company and named it Sabre Systems and Service. In 1975, Dad married Sandy Owen, and in 1976, son Brad was born. Work continued to go well, and Sabre became the largest appraisal company in the U.S., offering not only appraisal services to local governments, but also data processing to assist counties with property tax, payroll, and court systems. In 1985, Dad purchased a farm in Chillicothe and eventually was farming over 3,000 acres. He also renewed his association with former player at OSU by the name of Billy Joe Armstrong and started raising and showing polled Hereford cattle all over the country. He always told us that Brad learned how to work as he spent many summers working for Billy Joe. We all thought he had learned a few other things along the way that were very questionable, but we won't get into those. In 1989, More Data Management out of Toronto, Canada came calling. They purchased a company, and Dad and Sandy purchased a ranch in Texas. He always liked to ride horses, so he decided to get into the cutting horse business. He and Sandy traveled the country entering competitions. They got pretty good at it, and at one time owned dozens of horses and were featured in many trade magazines. Bill bought a bulldozer and began removing all the mesquite trees on the ranch. He would make giant piles of trees and light them on fire. 2008, he sold the Texas ranch and moved back to Dayton on a full-time basis. He finally retired for good and started slowing down, as we all do as we get older. I would be remiss if I did not mention his relationship with the Dayton Aganas Club. He has been a member of this organization since 1969. Because of his relationship with football, he was able to bring to Dayton many renowned individuals to speak at events. The Aganas Club recently named the Miami Athlete of the Year after Dad. Dad was always grateful to Miami University for the opportunity to receive an education. He gave back to the university financially and of his time serving on the Board of Trustees. Bill, Sandy, and Brad traveled extensively. Once they went around the world on a Concorde. Dad was an avid private pilot, accumulating over 5,500 hours. He owned a Beechcraft Baron and a King Air. He flew a Bonanza and a Sabreliner back in the 60s. One additional thought here. Dad had what I believe, and most here would agree, had a very successful career. He succeeded in business. He farmed over 3,000 acres. He owned and was successful with a cutting horse business. He flew airplanes, owned a bulldozer, etc., etc. But at the end of the day, he always talks most about his love of sports and his coaching career. My guess is that is true for everyone in this room. I'm sure I've left out many great experiences that Dad had over his 95 years. I've also left out many stories, both funny and embarrassing. Many we probably should never ever tell. Right, Randy? Cousins will be cousins. Bill has 5 boys, 9 grandchildren, 6 great-grandchildren, with another on the way. Sandy, I would be remiss if I did not take this opportunity on behalf of his 5 children to thank you for all that you have done these past years to take care of Dad as he goes through the aging process. I'm sure he has not been the most agreeable patient. On behalf of Dad's family, I would be remiss if I did not also thank the entire Aganas Club, and especially Jim Place and Dave Nogle for putting on this great event. It was great working with the two of you these past few weeks. At this time, I'd also like to thank the Miami University Athletic Department for everything they have done to make this event possible. They provided the centerpieces at each of the tables, they provided for the printing of the programs, and provided the IT expertise that allowed this to be a successful event. Special shout out to Lindsay Sparks from Miami, who provided so much support to Jim and Dave. David Saylor was not able to be here today because he's in Texas trying to determine who the top 4 teams in football should be this week. So, thank you.
Good news for the coach. That's the first of many, I have a feeling. Thank you, Tom. Beautifully done. Please welcome next a man with one of the most famous last names in football. Played college football at Bowling Green from 1957 to 1960 when Bill was an assistant coach there. He's also had a great coaching career of his own, and as you may know, his 2 sons have done pretty well in the coaching profession as well. He has spoken to the Dayton Aganas Club before, so it's a great pleasure to welcome back the one and only Jack Harbaugh.
I've done this a lot. I have never been as nervous as I am right now because of this guy right here. My entire life changed 67 years ago. 67 years ago, this gentleman came into our high school, Crestline, Ohio, asked the principal to speak with me. I came, and then this guy came out these eyes. You know, he had those eyes, those piercing eyes. And he had that look, that jaw was dropped down. Jack, I'm here to talk about the possibility of you coming to Bowling Green State University as a football player on a scholarship. Scholarship? College? Bowling Green? In our town, no one went to college. No one in my family went to college. No one had any kind of a scholarship. And here was Bill talking to me about a scholarship. He said, I'd like to come over to your house this evening and talk to your mom and dad and tell them the value of a college education and Bowling Green State University and what we can do for him. So I ran home and told my mom, Coach Gunlock's coming over here at 7 o'clock to speak to us about going to Bowling Green State University. We went in a mass. We had 4 other children there, cleaning up, pulling down, doing this, hiding different things. My dad was so frustrated, he had to go downtown and get a couple pops because Mom was driving him completely crazy. Then the problem was that he was going to come back about 6:30, and Mom wasn't really sure exactly how this was going to work out. But Bill sat down again with an enthusiasm unto mankind and explained to my mom and dad what college was all about. The education, being around Dwight Perry, being around the great athletes, winning football games, getting that education, that education, that education. Good night. Bill left. Mom looked at me. She said, Jack, you are going to Bowling Green State University. I said, Mom, don't talk to him. You are going to Bowling Green State University. And that's where I went. Opened so many doors for me. The first door that was open was Dwight Perry. Dwight Perry was our head football coach. He really didn't look like a football coach. He looked like a professor. He had glasses, and he was kindly and sweet and didn't loud, and he was our football coach. He also taught a class there at 8 o'clock in the morning, first class that we had as a freshman. We went to that class. Ed didn't go to the class. He was a business major. The other 35 of us were phys ed majors. So he was able to opt out of that class. So Dwight was up and he talked about it. He says, this is going to be the first question in the final examination. Dwight was teaching the class. Get out your pens, get out your paper, write this down. 3 things you have to do to be a successful football coach. Number 3, have a love and passion for the game of football. 3, love and passion. Number 2, you've got to outwork those people that you compete against. You'll never outsmart them. The reason I know that, I've recruited you all. Bill Gunlock has recruited 95% of you. He has already explained to me, none of you will outsmart anyone. You've got to outwork them. So outwork those that you play against. Wrote that down there. Number 3 was like a drum roll. Boom! Marry wisely. My next class was a biology class taught by Ernie Hamilton. Scott Hamilton was his son, the skater. He was a biology teacher. So that was my first academic class. We were alphabetized, A's, B's, C's over here. I was up in the right corner, H, Harbaugh. We went through as Harbaugh. And I'm looking, when he went to see the C area over there, and I'm looking down there and I see, oh my God, C-I, P-I, T-I. The most beautiful person I'd ever seen in my entire life. And I'm looking down, my heart's pounding, and the professor mispronounced her name. He called her Chippity or Chippetai or something like that, and she jumps up. It's Petey, C-I-P-I-T-I. And I said, I love her even more. She's got some spirit. So I dated her for 3 years, and she didn't have much to do with me. She said I was too full of myself. I have no idea what that means, to be too full of yourself, but she kept explaining it that way. So finally, the senior year, we dated, and then on November 25th in 1961, right, Jackie? We were married. In 2 weeks, we will celebrate our 62nd wedding anniversary. Jackie has something she wants to bring up. Jackie, go ahead.
Tell them which 2 teams will play.
I'm going, Jackie, that's my next thing. I thought we talked about that before I came over. Bill Gunlock, the Gunlock family. This is going to be a little bit of a quiz. We talked about November 25, 1961, we were married. Where were you November 25, 1961? Do you recall? Let me refresh your memory. Ohio State was playing Michigan on that Saturday afternoon in 1961. Your team was undefeated, playing against the Wolverines. I think it was in Michigan. The final score was Ohio State 50, Michigan 20. Bill Gunlock, congratulations to you. The man was involved with two undefeated teams, as you know. The Ohio State team in 61 and the Army team in 1958. Both records were 9-0-1, national champions, defensive coordinator, and he led that team to that great victory. And they were cheated out of the opportunity of going to the Rose Bowl. The next story, quick, about Doit. I was the worst football team player that he recruited that year. I didn't get it. Freshman, I didn't play much. My sophomore year, I didn't travel to any of the games. My career was going absolutely nowhere, and I really didn't understand why. I was walking across campus one day, and this little Doit came walking across to me, and he never said hi. He never said hello. He never said, how are you? He'd just say, how much you weigh, Harbaugh? How's school going, Harbaugh? That was just his way of saying hello. So, but this day, he started to walk away, and he came back. He said, Harbaugh, you may be the worst football player that I have ever recruited to Bowling Green State University. I wanted to say, well, Bill Gunlock thought I was pretty good, but I didn't want to go there. Or, Harbaugh, you could be one of the best defensive backs that we've ever had here at Bowling Green State University. And I was stunned. He turned around and walked away from me, never saying another word. I went back to the stadium club, and I'm sitting in the room or on the bed, and I'm thinking, best, worst, what was he trying to tell me? And it hit me, bang. It's up to you. If you want to be the worst, go ahead and be the worst. I've done all I can do. It's up to you now. And I turned the button a little bit, never became the best player or even close to the best player, but I was part of the 1959 team that you recruited, Bill Gunlock. You recruited in 1955, the 1959 National Championship team. I was a part of that. Ed was part of that, and we won that. And about 80% of those players were recruited by Bill Gunlock. I promise you. Give the man a nice round of applause for that. The next gentleman I ran into was 1973. It was Bo Schembechler. I went in for an interview to be the secondary coach for the Michigan Wolverines. I went into his office, and I'm thinking, I had never met Bo before. He started out, never talked about football. We never talked about secondary play. We didn't talk about anything, but we talked. And one of the first conversations that he initiated, I understand you know Bill Gunlock. I said, I sure do. He recruited me. My life, I'm here in this office because of this guy coming into my home and talking to my parents. That's why I'm here. He said, well, let me tell you a little bit about Bill Gunlock. We go back a long way. He talked about going to the All-Star game in Canton, Ohio. The game was played on Fawcett Field, the same place that they play those games now. Bill was on the south, Bo was on the north. They were roommates. They thought it was a good idea for the two parts of the state to get to know each other a little bit. And Bo said he became my best friend. We went to Miami of Ohio and played. He was my best friend. He was my most trusted ally. He was my best friend. He must have said it 3 or 4 times. And then he went on to talk about Bill being at Heidelberg. And Heidelberg was a good team. Paul Horniman was a great coach. They had won a lot of games. Bowling Green wasn't very good in 1955. Doit got the job from Ohio State. He was a running backs coach for Woody Hayes. Doit Perry was a graduate of Bowling Green. He was coming back home. He wanted to turn that program around. His first hire was Bo Schembechler. Bo Schembechler came in the office, said, we need Bill Gunlock. He's down in Heidelberg. We got to go down and talk to him. They went down and talked to him and got him. Got him to come to Bowling Green State University. Bill said it was a pretty easy decision. I was going to be around Bo. That was number 2. And they were paying me a hell of a lot more money. That was number 1. So he drove into Bowling Green. So these two guys, and then Bo starts to tell me stories about these two guys. They're at Bowling Green, and Deutsch is trying to coach. He's the head coach, and he's trying to coach the coaches about the types of offense they were going to run, the type of defense, the philosophy they were going to have about the game of football. And these two guys would get in an argument about what they thought should be the direction of the football program over the head coach. So Bo said that we argued. We were on the stair steps one day. We were arguing back and forth. He said it even got to a little bit of a pushing match between us. And finally, Deutsch goes in his way. Fellas, stop this. This is not helping us win. Come up the stairs here. I want to show you something. So they said they plopped up the stairs, and the Deutsch office was up. Remember men's gym, Ed? Old men's gym, their office was up there. The door was open, so Deutsch says, gentlemen, let me show you something here. And he took the door and he closed it. And they're looking at the door and said, what are you trying to say? He said, read it. And I think it was Bill that read it, and it says, Deutsch Perry, head football coach. That's it. I am Deutsch Perry, the head football coach, and from now on, I'm going to be the head football coach, and you're going to be my loyal assistant. It didn't help much. Bo said the next thing that happened was, you'll love this, Mike. Next thing that happened, do you remember this, Mike? Remember the Dallas Cowboys? They used to get down in a three-point stance with their hand on the ground, and then they'd jerk their hand up and then go back down. And on defense, when you saw the hand move, it was a 5-yard penalty, and you get a penalty. So Bo was coaching the offensive line, and Bill was coaching the defensive line, and they got into a discussion. Is that an advantage? And Bill said, that's not an advantage. You read the hand. If the hand goes up, you don't move. If the hand comes out, you move. It's just that simple, Bo. It's not. And Bo said, well, I'm telling you it'll work. And they got into an argument, so they put on pads. And they put on helmets. Bill, shake your head yes if all this happened. He's shaking his head and he's saying yes. They put on helmets. They put on shoulder pads. They even put on the thigh pads, the knee pads, the football shoes, the jerseys, the whole, out on the field they go. Down the stairs from the offices they go, onto the practice field. There are two versions of this story. I have a Bo version of the story and a Bill version of the story. So you'll just have to kind of pretend who might be right on this particular story. But they're down on the field. I can't demonstrate this like I'd like to. I'm going to come down here and demonstrate this. Picture this. Here's Bo in his stance. Now just picture right here. I'm not Jack Harbaugh. I'm Bo Schembechler. Are you with me? Can you just picture? Bill's here so we can picture him, right? So Bo gets down into a beautiful three-point stance. Got his hand down on the ground, flat back, little bow in the neck, hand on the hand. He's ready to go. On the defensive side of it, Bill lines up in a 4-point stance, froth coming out of his mouth, snot bubbles dribbling out of his nose. He can't wait to show him that he's going to be able to do this. So Bo jumps down here, boom, his hand moves. Boom, Bill comes across the line of scrimmage. Hits Bo right on the tip of the nose. Blood is coming down over his nose, down over his pads. And Bo said, you son of a gun. You did that on purpose. No matter what I would have done, you would have come across the line of scrimmage, and you would have taken that out on him, and you would have bloodied your nose. Bill, is that a true story?
That's true.
So I'm just going to close with this. I absolutely love this man. As I stand before you today, I can't imagine what my life would have been without him coming into my life. And when Jim Place called me, and he asked me if I would come and be a part of this tribute, I would have walked along with Jackie. You would have come with me, right, Jackie? To come to be a part of this event. Thank you, Bill. Thank you. And just one last thing. The last thing Bo said to me that day that I was being interviewed, he did not say you're hired. I had to wait for another week to get the hiring call. But he looked at me and he said this. He looked at me like this. Only he could do. And let me tell you something, Jack. If Bill Gunlock had stayed in football, he would be sitting in this chair. Thank you.
The last time Jack Harbaugh spoke to our club several years ago, he was exactly like that. And I reminded him of that when I first saw him today. He goes, "Oh, Mark, I backed it off a little bit. I've slowed down a little bit." No, he has not. Also joining us today is a guy who has become a very good friend of us here at the Dayton Agonis Club, speaking at one of our noon lunches. Every year, we'll be in touch, Coach, in the spring after your season is over, as usual. Chuck Martin is now, I can't believe, already in his 10th season as the head football coach of the Miami Redhawks. And what a season they're having. Even after losing his starting quarterback, they are having a phenomenal season, already bowl eligible, and may yet win the MAC. And as you may know, his team lockers and trains every day in a building just beyond the north end zone at Yager Stadium that bears the Gunlock family name. Please welcome back a good friend of the Dayton Agonis Club, Coach Chuck Martin.
We all like to be in control of our lives. We're all kind of control freaks, not just coaches, but all you guys that you like to have things the way you want them, you know. And then there's shitty days like today. And again, I value Tom's friendship. Tom's been incredibly supportive forever for me. Been like a rock. If Randy's going crazy, I call Tom. Try to like, hey, where we at here, you know. Obviously I've got to know Bill well, but if a lot of times we got to speak at different things, and I'll speak in the spring here again, if you guys will have me. It's one of the funnest days of the year, coming in and hang out with you guys. But whenever you speak, you don't want to foul certain people. So this is the third time in my life, like as soon as I came and saw Jack, I'm like, son of a I didn't know Jack was like, because again, I'm busy and I'm rolling over here and I got lunch. I didn't really even know I was speaking, to be honest with you. I'm sure I knew by an email that I didn't read. I'm sure I knew 6 months ago that I was speaking, but I found out when Tom wanted, you want the mic or you want the, and I saw Jack, like, oh, please just like, can I go after Tom? And then I didn't know the lineup, there's no program. It's like, Jack, so I spoke in Cincinnati after Anthony Munoz one time. You imagine how excited they were here from Chuck Martin after in Cincinnati. Like anywhere in the world, Anthony Munoz, Chuck Martin, Anthony Munoz, like they don't even know what the hell Chuck Martin is. They know it. And it's in Cincinnati. I'm like, I'm speaking after Munoz, like. And then one time I spoke in Michigan, and I didn't know again after Tom Izzo. I was a head coach at Grand Valley State University. Tom Izzo just won the national title at Michigan State, so that was a fun one too. And then I got to come here, and it isn't. Again, the only positive, it's an honor to be speaking at the same time that if I'm speaking with Jack Harbaugh, I've done way more in my life than I ever thought I would accomplish. So I'm going to be real brief now. Bill's affected my life just the opposite of Jack's. It affected Jack's on the front end when he was young, and it's changed not only his life, his family's, his kid's life, his grandkid's life, his great-grandkid's life, his great-great, you know, it changed generations of Harbaugh's. For me, it's been the backside. So I come to Miami University, this incredibly rich tradition of football, which Bill and his family have their fingerprints all over it forever, right? We weren't very good, but we have this unbelievable history. Played, coached, kids played, all right? Donate, support, building, all right? And everything success we've had on the back end is because of the Gunlock family, and it's because of Bill. And I've obviously got to know Randy a lot better and spend more time with Randy than Bill, but Randy's involved because of Bill. And Randy's become one of my best friends, and Tom's become one of my best allies. Now, the best thing is, as Randy recaps games for me, like a fan, Has Randy ever recapped a game for any of you guys? Where's Sam at? Sam, so you recap games with Randy all the time, right? So the nice thing is, I always say, hey, at some point if he comes up for air, right? I say, what did Bill say? And then he'd say, well, my dad said he doesn't understand why you fucking jump offside. He doesn't understand the damn penalties, and they got to tackle better, and they've got to block better. I'm like, okay, did you hear that, Randy? Did you hear what your dad said? That's all that other stuff about the plays and the play calling and your dad's the football coach, So I'm going to take all those notes that your dad told you was crappy about my team, and we're going to work on blocking and tackling and not jumping off sides and not having stupid penalties, and all the stuff that you got in your head from wherever you get the stuff in your head. And Randy be the first to tell you, my dad's a coach and he knows a hell of a lot more about this than me. So all the conversation I had with Randy, at some point I always said, hey, what did your dad say? He was at the game, and then I took those and wrote those down, and we're going to be better at, I know Bill will be proud of our team this year because our penalties we're the lowest in the league, all right, and we're running the football, the best we've run in a long time. We've ran the ball 95 times the last 2 weeks and threw it 22 times, and only 14 of those 22, the ball crossed the line of scrimmage. The other 8, we threw it behind the line of scrimmage, which is, you can just add those to the run game. And I think we're playing some really good Bill Gunlock football, the way he coached it, the way he wants. So all you've done for Miami, and I'm the beneficiary as whatever the head coach there, and all the stuff, not just our facilities, but all the years and all the donations and all the time and all the energy and all the love and the passion, and that's why Miami football is the way it is. And it's not just Bill, but he's been one of the main matriarchs for everything that's been accomplished and our traditions there and the whole thing. So from the bottom of my heart, you've really helped me and my family, and appreciate everything, and you are Miami football. So thank you very much, Bill.
Now you know why we love Chuck Martin at the Dayton Agonis Club. And thankfully we have a strong podium today. It's taken a beating. We have some more folks to hear from today. This time we're going to pass around, I'll let Steve help me out here. We're going to pass around the wireless mic here at the head table and ask a few more folks to say a few words about Bill. Beginning appropriately with a guy who has lunch with Bill at a table right out here every Monday here at the Agonis Club. He's one of many who played for Bill at Bowling Green. Ed Phillips, of course. Ed, good to see you. Ed, when you reflect, played for Bill at Bowling Green. Ed, when you reflect back on your playing days at BG and your years of friendship with Bill, I know that encompasses decades, but what comes to mind?
There's so many things that we could talk about with Bill. And Bill, we stayed together as friends over all these years. And to lose Bill at the time we did really hurt, but he went on to bigger and better things. But he left the value, and he left Dwight Perry, who became College Football Hall of Fame, had a lot to do with Bill and his system of football. With the things that we did together were just super. To put me behind two guys that talk for a living is very difficult, I'll tell you. Jack, again, it's good to be with you. Jack and I were fraternity brothers, teammates, played baseball and football together. I was actually at their wedding. And the friendships that you develop during those years of fraternity and college and the teams, some of them are right here, and I have a prize for anyone that can name the schools that are in this picture. These are all recruits from Dayton that Bill Gunlock recruited. Over 1959, championship team. We went 18 in a row, undefeated. We're college division national champs. We were in 1959 voted Hall of Fame Team of the Year. Football made a man out of me, out of Jack. I remember Jack telling me one time, you know, Ed, if it hadn't been for football, you'd have a picture of me sitting at the VFW at the bar, drinking a beer and smoking a cigarette. So, two of us together, you know, I'm from Alpha, Ohio. That's not a whole lot different. But it's been just a wonderful football experience. I remember coming home, and I don't know how many minutes you give me here, coming home from late in my senior year, and there's a car in front of our house. I go into the kitchen, Mom's fixing dinner, and I said, Mom, who's the guy in the house? Oh, that's Mr. Gunlock from Bowling Green. He thinks you can play football there. And I said, Mom, I do not want to play football in Kentucky. So when you live in Alpha, Ohio, you don't know everything about it. There is to know. But that was the beginning. And I think the thing that worked the best was Mom's meatloaf. Bill, really. He ate more than he should have. But and that was the thing that got us started on a 4-year wonderful trip. Teammates, good friends, 18 games in a row. Voted college division national champs. They're Hall of Fame at Bowling Green. The whole team is. It was just, and Dwight Perry was an incredible coach. He's in the Hall of Fame down in Atlanta. His winning percentage is 80-something%, right? Anyhow, I could go on, and I'm not going to do that. But I really appreciate Gunnar and our experience, our friendship. It's meant a lot to me.
Thanks, Ed. Since the mic is already on that end of the table, let's just keep it down there. As mentioned earlier, Bill's coaching career began at Heidelberg College in Tiffin, and Jerry Wantz is also joining us today to give us some memories and insights into Bill's earliest coaching years. I mean, there's a lot of focus on, you know, what he did after Heidelberg, but you saw him, you know, when he was just forming as a coach. Take us back to those days.
Well, Bill was there 2 years, and first practice, he got into the three-point stance. Now, we were just playing, you know, but he wanted us to brush up in a three-point stance, which nobody uses anymore.
That's true.
You can't block low, and you can't block high. I couldn't have played, you know, 175 pounds.
Jeez.
But well, Bill was also manager of the pool in Tiffin, Ohio, and he doesn't swim. I don't know. I run and Bill. I left town and worked in Michigan. Came back and run into Bill out of the air show. He's out the air show. See him every once in a while. Never forget him.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jerry. We're going to head down to the other end of the dais here. Next, one of the many who played for Bill during his assistant coaching days under Woody at Ohio State. In fact, Dave Tingley was a member of that aforementioned undefeated 1961 national championship team. So Dave, thank you for being with us today. You were there for one of the golden ages of not only Buckeye football, but college football. I mean, you were there for Woody and Bo and Bill. Take us back.
Yeah, when I came to Ohio State, it was in 1958. Ohio State was national champs, and I was a freshman, and I had to go over and practice every day against those guys, which was not very much fun at all, but they were unbelievable. And next year after that, all those guys were gone. They were playing professional football. And in 1960, 59 and 60, we were in trouble. Because we had 4 All-Americans on offense. We were the #1 team in the country going in 1959, and we won 2 games. Tied 1. We were horrible. Not only that, our 2 best football players, one of the best football players that ever played at Ohio State from East High School, flunked out. Ernie Wright flunked out. They were both All-Americans and great, so we were in trouble. So Woody got smart and brought in a defensive coordinator who told me he was an offensive coordinator. But he says he's a defensive coordinator. Anyhow, he changed everything around. He went in and took probably half of the guys that Woody chose who he wanted on offense. He picked me, thank God, and a bunch of Billy Joe Armstrong and a bunch of other guys to play defense. We had 2 teams that scored against us more than 2 touchdowns. One was Wisconsin, score was 33-21. Michigan, 50-20. And those 2, we were lucky to beat those teams because they were good. They had good football. Michigan's always had great football players. As a matter of fact, half of that team was close friends of mine, and they were good. And we wouldn't have this ring here if it wasn't for him and Bo. They were responsible for it because Bill's a guy that changed our whole defense. Because the other years we played, Woody had our linebackers playing over the ends. So the ends had to worry about sweeps. So when we moved, the 5-yard halfback always to the short side of the field. And then we had a linebacker on the outside, was responsible for sweeps and off tackles. That solved the whole problem. Not only that, we had Paul Warfield playing safety. We had a lot of talent. A lot of guys went and played professional football. And that guy right there is, not only that, after that, when he started building all these companies and everything, he hired half of them. Herb Street, Billy Joe Armstrong, our quarterback, worked for you guys. I mean, he is really a friend. Everybody loved him. But he was tough. He'd kick your butt if you got in the wrong areas. Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. Dave, you mentioned that's a 61 ring, right? 61 championship ring you're wearing?
Yeah.
I think Bill still wears that to this day, doesn't he? There it is.
There it is.
And I know that when you get the famous Gunlock handshake, you can feel that ring digging in. Got a video for you now. We're going to hear from a couple of folks who wanted to be here, but were unable to, but wanted to be a part of this via video. So let's sit back and watch that now.
When we first became acquainted, I was then a graduate assistant at Bowling Green State University, and you, as you well know, were assistant coach there at Bowling Green under Dwight Parrott. When I came on the scene, the impact that you had on my coaching and my career, I certainly very appreciative. You always took time with me, and it made a difference whether we talked about the offense offensive side of the ball or the defensive side of the ball, he always took time with me, and he was so thorough and such a great teacher. I had such great respect for you as a football coach. And then you left and went to Army and coached for Colonel Blake. And then I had the opportunity to come back then the next year and become a full-time assistant there at Bowling Green. And I'll never forget when you came back and presented the defense that you were really sold on, the angle defense, which you referred to as Monster and Chuckles. And I took that defense and we involved it there at Bowling Green, but I took it along with me as I continued on as an assistant and as a head coach. And probably for 35 years, I used the angle defense. I didn't call it Monster and Chuckles, but it was a defense that was the hub of our defensive scheme. And I was always very appreciative of that. But, you know, even talking about the football, the thing that I've really cherished has been our friendship that we've had over that span of 50 years. And I say this, I was quite proud to have the opportunity to have your two sons, Tom and Randy, in my program, or our program at Miami when I was a head football coach. Tom was my manager. Randy came on and played as an offensive center for us, went on and became a captain. Unfortunately, I didn't coach Randy the last couple years of his career, but again, both of them just quality individuals, and I was so pleased that I had the opportunity to have them involved in our program. The thing that I've really cherished, besides the great impact that you had on my profession and coaching, but our friendship. It's been a quality friendship, a person who I've enjoyed being around. And it's always fun when we get together, whether we're talking about football or other issues or good memories, a lot of good laughs. I know this past December when Ellie and I went with you and Sandy to Texas to visit your ranch there, and then we went to Fort Worth and took in the Turkey, the quarter horse cutting shows and sales too. We just had a great time. Any time that I'm with you, I always enjoy it. It just has been a friendship that I've cherished.
Dave Saylor hoped to be with us. As mentioned, he's down in Texas trying to figure out who's going to be in the college football playoff. So, and he'll be speaking to the club here coming up in a few weeks. A couple more pieces of business before we hear from the man himself. We have a special presentation for you, Bill, and here to do that, bring back Miami head football coach Chuck Martin. You've got something right behind you that I think is going to look pretty sharp in the Gunlock house.
We actually found his old jersey in the basement.
Look at that. You might be surprised how small that jersey looks. Bill, according to what I read, when you went to Miami, you were a 180-pound lineman. Is that right?
Well, 180, that most of the time.
You couldn't be a holder today at 180. That's amazing. All conference, 180-pound lineman. Tough SOB. Another special presentation to do that, Agana's Club President Steve Gamm. Steve.
The club has a award in recognition of Bill Gunlock's legendary football accomplishments. This is a player. He was at Chillicothe High School. He played on the Ohio All-Star team, and he played at Miami University. As coach, he coached at Heidelberg, Bowling Green State University, Army, and The Ohio State University. Congratulations, Bill.
And thankfully, Steve remembered to take the mic with him because it is time now to hear from the man himself. I asked Bill if he wanted to say a few words, and he did. So, ladies and gentlemen, I give you the one and only Bill Gunlock.
Well, I personally want to take this opportunity to thank those, Jim Place and all the people that, Dave Noble and Tom Gunlock and any others that contributed to this affair today. It's a great honor to me, and well overdue. I mean,
You're right. You're right.
it should have been done and all, that's what it meant. That's what I meant to say, but I'm not too sharp anymore, I never was very good. But anyway, it's a great honor to be honored in this way, and I appreciate it very much. And I will place this, because the one thing I'm most proud of is that four coaches that I was Coach of the Year, National Coach of the Year, and it ain't easy to get that acknowledgement. I want to say this, that Red Blake was a wonderful coach and a great guy with great courage, and changed when he changed in 1958. He changed the defense, he changed the offense, went to an offense called the Lonesome End, and that's when we played the end way out there. And Jesus, God, we had that is difficult if you are a coach and you have to make all the adjustments when you go left and right unbalanced, and then you go long motion to the lonesome end and away from the lonesome end. It was hell. Anyway, it's a great honor to be honored in this way. Thank you so much. Thank you.
If you would, a standing ovation, please, for Bill Gunlock.